This is The Weekly on ClickOrlando.com with Justin Warmoth.
Good morning and happy Sunday. I'm Justin Warmoth. This morning, we're joined by Dr. Jim Clark, UCF history professor, News 6 political analyst. Good morning to you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, so what a month it's been. The Democratic side has really dwindled.
We sat here a month ago wondering if Joe Biden was going to drop out.
That's how quickly things can change.
Exactly.
So let's start with Vice President Biden and his turning point. What was it? Which state set him on the right path?
South Carolina. He was on the ropes. We knew he had to win and win big in South Carolina, and he did. And it put Bernie Sanders on the ropes, and Bernie never recovered from South Carolina.
Was it that winning that state, it's not necessarily the delegates that he would attain, it's more or less like how other states perceive how they voted, right? I mean, explain that part of it and how the momentum, rather than just the large amount of delegates that he grabbed.
Right. South Carolina is a small state, does not have a great many delegates, but it did two things. First of all, it gave Biden a much needed victory. More importantly, other Democrats, remember, there were at one point 28 Democrats in this race.
I don't even want to go back that far.
And it got narrowed down to 14. And the other Democrats, Buttigieg and some of the others, after South Carolina, began to look at it and say, wait a minute, I don't have a path here. So they began to drop out. So those two things came out of South Carolina.
Right. And we saw, immediate Pete Buttigieg endorsing Joe Biden. And then the trickle down with the endorsements that the vice president had rather than Bernie Sanders did not receive as many endorsements from previous candidates. In fact, the one he was really looking for, Elizabeth Warren,
hasn't.
And that significantly hurt him in your eyes?
I think so. And the Warren vote, everyone assumed it was 7 to 12%.
Right.
Everyone assumed, that'll automatically go to Bernie, but it has not. It's split pretty evenly. And as you know, Elizabeth Warren early on was very angry at Bernie Sanders. She said that in a private meeting, he had told her a woman couldn't be elected president. And some of Bernie's followers were trolling her on the internet saying really nasty things. So there's a real grudge match there.
Right. But you have to really dig deep because on the surface, it seems like they would get along and that'd be an easy endorsement. But there is a history there. And Bernie supporters are passionate and they assumed that she would endorse him automatically.
They were adding, Bernie got 30% here. Elizabeth Warren had 10%. She'll drop out. Bernie will go up to 40%.
And I would imagine that the Bernie supporters now blame Elizabeth Warren for, their current situation.
Yeah, and we're seeing more and more of this as Bernie has faltered, blaming Elizabeth Warren, blaming the Democratic establishment, even blaming young voters who historically don't come out in great as numbers as older voters. We've known this.
All right, so Florida's primary just a few days away on Tuesday, St. Patrick's Day. Hopefully people have time to go to the polls before they get going. But nevertheless, in 2016, Hillary Clinton really just demolished Bernie here in the state of Florida, 65% of the vote. Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden are similar in their stances and their following. So do we expect to see the same?
Yeah, I think you could very well see the same. I think that Florida, again, given its large Venezuelan population, its large Cuban population, is not going to embrace a socialist. And they didn't do it 4 years ago.
And that's actually back to Bernie and some of his comments about Fidel Castro.
Exactly. And
do you think that was also a factor in his poor performance over the last couple of weeks?
I do. I think he doubled down. Instead of saying, yes, there are things wrong with the Cuban government, he kept praising the Cuban government, and he has praised the Venezuelan government, the socialist government there. So he has not modified his positions at all.
Hypothetically, what would it take for Bernie Sanders to reverse course here? Is it something that is certainly hypothetical and there's no chance that it happens, or is there a chance that he could reverse course and maybe get it closer after the next wave of primaries?
No, the primaries coming up all have Joe Biden written all over them, Florida, then Georgia. I don't know where Bernie can win. The places he's been doing best are in the West. He won California by a tiny margin, and then he may win Washington State.
Yeah.
He may win North Dakota, Idaho, Colorado, but largely these are small states with small numbers of delegates.
And Michigan really was something that he needed. He won Michigan against Hillary Clinton.
That was his comeback state 4 years ago, and he was hoping that lightning would strike twice.
I was looking at Central Florida and which counties had the highest percentage of the vote towards Bernie Sanders in 2016. And believe it or not, it was Seminole County had the highest percentage of Bernie Sanders. Now, it was still a 20%, give or take a few percentage points margin.
Right.
But I found that interesting. I don't know if there's a reasoning behind it or just, he struck a chord with some of the Seminole County residents, but I found that interesting. We don't have to talk about it, just a little caveat to throw in. All right, so moving forward, okay, so let's fast forward to July, okay, Democratic National Convention in Milwaukee, middle of July. What do we expect? Do we expect to have Vice President Biden be the nominee, and who do we think will be his running mate? Do we have any guesses here? Any predictions?
One of the things that is a foregone conclusion is that he will pick a woman. That's been talked about. The senator from Minnesota, which is a state that Biden needs if he wants to win the election, is a real possibility.
Klobuchar?
Yes, she endorsed him 2 weeks ago very strongly and is working on his behalf. And so she might help him in the Midwest, where he can probably use some help. Other people mentioned are Kamala Harris, the senator from California, but he doesn't need California. He needs a running mate that'll help him somewhere. And one of the names, of course, being mentioned is Orlando Congresswoman Val Demings,
yes.
Who emerged as kind of a star during the impeachment hearings and has drawn a lot of national attention. Last weekend, Jill Biden spent a couple of days with Val Demings, and it was billed as a campaign stop in Orlando. They went to some churches together, but at the same time, you have to believe that part of Jill Biden's role was to come down and kind of get a sense of Val Demings and go back to Joe Biden and say, hey, here's what this person's like.
Not only is she a congresswoman from Florida, but also right dab in the middle of the I-4 corridor.
Boy, is that important. You cannot talk more about how important that is. There are 7 counties from Daytona to St. Petersburg. Since 1996, whoever wins the majority of those counties has gone to the White House.
Wow.
And that's going to be the case, I think, this year. Will Seminole County go Democratic? It's been trending that way for the last decade. What about St. Petersburg? That was a shock to Hillary, and that was an early night indicator of what was to come when the Democrats lost Pinellas County.
Yeah, no doubt. And you know what? It's so interesting because Iowa and New Hampshire had all of these candidates descend on those states, right?
Yes.
We're about to see that same sort of thing. Florida will be a state that both candidates, whoever is on the Democratic side and certainly President Trump, have circled for many campaign stops.
You know, you're absolutely right. There are 50 states, and sitting here right now, I can tell you how 43 of them are going to vote. There are only about maybe 5, 6, 7 states that are in play, and you are going to see both campaigns concentrating on them, especially after 2016. Remember, Hillary didn't even campaign in Michigan, didn't even go to Wisconsin. They're not going to make that mistake again. So I think Donald Trump's already set up residence in Florida, and Joe Biden may follow suit.
And we're going to talk about the president and his first time possibly casting his own ballot, casting, in as a state of Florida resident. So we'll have more with Dr. Jim Clark right after this. Stay with us.
This is The Weekly on ClickOrlando.com with Justin Warmoth.
Welcome back to The Weekly. I'm Justin Warmoth. We're joined this morning by Dr. Jim Clark, UCF history professor and News 6 political analyst. And Dr. Clark, we just spent the last segment talking about the Democrats and what we're seeing when it comes to the primary. Let's now transition to the Republicans, which don't obviously get as much attention when an incumbent is a Republican. But the president certainly has had a large number of people vote for him in these primaries.
Yeah, well,
significant?
One of the strange things that the Republicans did, and I think it might have sounded good at the time, was to eliminate Republican primaries, which meant that anyone running against the president didn't have a forum. However, at the same time, they eliminated the opportunity for the president to have a big victory party every Tuesday night. So for the last 6 weeks, we've seen Joe Biden, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders giving basically their campaign speeches on national television while he's been kind of off stage tweeting. So Florida is the first big primary where he's going to get huge numbers of votes and obviously win over 90% of the vote, but and have that chance Tuesday night to have a big victory party.
And he'll be voting for himself in his new home states.
He will. He becomes the first president to cast a ballot in Florida. We've never had that before. He changed his residence last year. This is the first election he can vote in. There's the Republican, he'll vote in Palm Beach, in the town of Palm Beach. There are no contested city council races there, so he doesn't have to decide who to vote for. So I assume he'll vote for himself, although there are 3 other Republicans on the ballot, including William Weld, the former governor of Massachusetts, who now has 1 delegate, and Joe Walsh, the former congressman from Illinois, who's already dropped out, and Rocky De La Fuente, who has been running for president and Senate and Congress
for a long time,
since I was a child.
Right.
Trump is going to have a tremendous victory. It's going to give him lots of reasons to celebrate.
It sure will. And let's talk about the significance of seeing the primary sort of take shape and almost, you can say, almost nearly wrapped up. What's the advantage to A, the Democrats, and then B, on the other side, the Republicans moving forward?
Yeah, history shows us that the candidate who has the easiest path to nomination wins the presidency. We saw that 4 years ago with Donald Trump. He cleared the field first. Hillary and Bernie Sanders were fighting up until the point that she gave her acceptance speech. Some of Bernie Sanders' people were trying to disrupt the convention. You had the mess with the Democratic chairwoman, Schultz from South Florida. And so the convention was kind of a messy affair. Now Joe Biden has a chance to consolidate, to plan the convention. He's going to clearly be in charge. And so it's going to go a lot smoother. That's a tremendous advantage.
No doubt. When it comes to debates, which, listen, you can think of debates however you want, but they do have an effect. They certainly have an effect for a large number of voters. We saw fireworks, no doubt, when it came to the President Trump and Hillary Clinton in 2016. I mean, it's going to happen again. During these, whoever is the candidate, of course, we certainly, have an idea. But if, let's say, Joe Biden is the candidate and he takes on the president in these debates, fireworks will be flying. Yes,
and one of the safest bets is that at least one of the debates will be here in Florida. It's that important. So, I think there are going to be fireworks. Hillary, 4 years ago, kept thinking she was winning the debates, kept thinking she was doing well in the debates. People kept telling her, oh, you made some good points. But in the end, it was Donald Trump who was elected president. So that's extremely important.
Do you think people will see the polls and treat them with the same weight as maybe they once did after 2016 and after what we saw when especially in the presidential election, when we see those polls come out. Do you think people will still hold that same weight for what once we did?
Polling has gotten so difficult. First of all, very few of us have phones in our home anymore.
Yeah.
It's tougher for the pollsters to reach us. Mm-hmm. And I don't know about you, but when I see a strange number on my cell phone, I don't answer.
I don't answer either.
And so it's going to be tough for pollsters.
Yeah. The president, of course, has been tweeting about his record number of turnout in the primary, right? That's his big thing. And right now, though, the major focus is on the coronavirus. Do you think the coronavirus will have a major impact on the election, and how will going forward, the debates, we don't know how these conventions and things like that could be going forward. This could play a major role in the 2020 election.
Yeah, we don't know what's going to keep happening. Some people are saying this could go on for 6 months. Mm-hmm. This takes us into fall. Mm-hmm. Just this week, Chicago canceled the St. Patrick's Day parade.
Right.
All these things are being canceled. Universities, including the University of Central Florida, are talking about going to exclusively online classes. How is that going to affect things? What's going to happen this summer? Once people start canceling things, other people say, well, maybe we should cancel
suit
too. So
polling places.
This is going to be interesting on Tuesday. And I assume that the election supervisors are worried about this. If you stop and think about it, a majority of the election day workers are retired people. Are they going to want to show up and spend a day interacting with people? And are people going to want to touch the same touch screen that 50 other people touched before them?
It is certainly a big deal.
Yeah.
And I think this will be our first big test. We did have, last week we had the results come in. I don't think it had much of an effect, but this will be a good deciding factor on whether or not moving forward in primary and maybe even spilling into August when there's congressional primaries and things like that, whether it has an effect on voter turnout.
Exactly.
And whether or not more people will want to vote by mail.
And remember, Joe Biden's core voters are older Democrats who may be less inclined to want to go out and interact with people.
So many things to watch. Dr. Clark, we appreciate your insights. Every time you come in here, you give us the best news, and
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining us on this Sunday morning. I'm Justin Mormith. We have much more on the politics section of clickorlando.com. Have a good one.